All right. So I was in Bali, and I Ubud for 3 weeks, and I noticed there was a Courses in Miracles study group, and I had actually read that book over the course of a whole year. That is my German Reiki teacher named Peter gave to me. And so I went there, and then there was this American guy talking about it with some English girl or American girl. He lived in a really cool house. He had his whole house to himself and nice backyard. And so we were talking about that for a couple days, and then I go back to Ubud and watch movies at these restaurants. And anyway, it's a cool place to wind down. And then I got on a boat and took another boat day's journey to Timor. If I had done that trip again, I probably should have stopped in Komodo, where the Komodo dragons are, and seen some other cool islands where they have the volcanic, turquoise lakes and stuff. But I didn't do that. I just took the boat straight into Timor and had another crazy experience on the boat. I stayed on the deck of the boat, and I bought some weed in Ubud from some Indonesian guy. And so I was smoking in my sleeping bag on the deck. So I was high the whole time. And hanging out in this little bar with these crazy Indonesians. This one kid, young kid, who was just, they're off the wall, just babbling in Indonesian. I didn't know what he was saying, but then everybody would laugh. And he was like making fun of me because he's pointing at me and like mocking me. And and they wanted me to stay at their house when we got off the boat, but I decided to just go and stay at a hotel. Getting on and off a boat in Indonesia is kind of an experience. When I first got on the boat, for some reason they didn't line the boat up right, so they could only open up the door like halfway, so people would have to crawl in. And then I got off the boat, and everybody thought that one side was going to be the exit, so everybody crowds together, jam-packed, and then the other side opens, so everybody crawls over there. And I had my bicycle, and people were pushing my bike into some guy in front of me, and he thought it was me, and I was just trying to not piss anybody off. But I got on my bike and rode down to to a hotel and stayed there and booked a flight to Darwin, Australia. So I was very excited to be in Darwin because for the last, what was it, couple of months or something, and actually for the last like year or more than a year, I was in poor countries and countries that didn't speak English, and here was my opportunity to go back to a first world country where they speak English. So I got on the plane and flew into Darwin. And the landing in Darwin was very interesting because it was on Indonesian Airlines, and the plane was rocking like this as it was landing in Darwin. I at one point thought maybe like, are we gonna crash? But he managed to get it flat right before we landed, and I landed and got my stuff, got my bike, put the wheels on it, and was riding down the road, and that was very exciting. One of the most exciting times of my life, riding down the road in Australia. Just nice roads, not too much traffic, nice cars, everybody speaking English, and just flat and kind of sparsely, not like jungly, where you can walk anywhere you want. You're not a slave to the roads with too much foliage everywhere. And I rode into Darwin and hung out there. Darwin is kind of an interesting place because it's a small town and it's very touristy, and all the tourists are high school graduate age English kids. So I guess when English kids graduate high school, they all go to Australia and drive around Australia. And they all go in these big groups, so it was really cliquish. I stayed in this hotel that was huge, and then like this cafeteria-like place, there's all these groups of kids in their own little groups. Um, but I was hanging out with some Dutch kid who was like a soccer player, and we went to a bar, and it was a bar filled with nothing but on the pedestrian mall, filled with nothing but tourists, like English tourists, and they had like these strip contests there, where they get like English tourist girls. They play music and they'd see like which girl would take off their most clothes, and whoever did won, and they got totally topless, and yeah, anyways, that was the only place like that I was at. I was there for a day or two because I I had to buy stuff for my bicycle. I bought stuff like these water bottle holders to hold like 6 2-liter water bottles. Um, and yeah, I think that's basically all I bought, and then extra parts and stuff. And then I started riding south towards Alice Springs. Um, it took me 11 days to get to Alice Springs from Darwin. When I first left Darwin, I thought that I was going to be able to ride my bike for 24 hours straight. But I made it like 12 hours, and then I got tired. I got drowsy, and so I just sleep on the side of the road. Every few miles, there's a place on the side of the road where you can get food, like a barbecue. And it's kind of expensive, and I had a big appetite, so I ate a lot of it. But it was fun. The first, I think, 12 or 15 miles leaving Darwin, they had a bike path. So I had my own road to myself, which was really cool. And I had weed too that I brought with me from Indonesia. And in my butt, so don't worry, I was safe. But I made it like halfway there to Alice Springs, and I ran out of weed. And I got up one morning, and I'm riding down the road, and I'm like, I think I saw a couple, like American couple or something, and they saw me riding from their direction. They came to my side, and they wanted to talk to me. And every couple of days, you see a bike, and these guys would come to my ride, and they wanted to like talk to you about their tour and everything. But it was my first day without weed, and I'm riding down the road thinking to myself, oh man, this sucks. No weed, because it was my first day without it. And I look down and I see a metal pipe. So I picked it up and I looked at it, and it was totally resonated. So I scraped it, and this thing kept me totally stoned all the way into Darwin. And I was pretty much had run out of it right when I got to Darwin. And I rolled into Darwin, and I saw a few of these Aborigine guys. So I asked this guy where I could buy some weed, and he goes, oh yeah, follow me. I know this guy. So I went over to this bar, and he introduced me to these old, like 55-year-old Australian guys who were there sitting around drinking beer. And so they said, oh yeah, I sell weed, I'll sell you some. So I sat down with them, and I got a room at this really big hostel in a bunk room, and lots of English tourists there, but I didn't really talk to any of them. But anyways, I hung out with these Australian guys all day long for 3 days. And that's all they did. I don't know what they did for money. I guess they were seasonal workers or something. Or they just weren't working at that time. But yeah, we were just drinking beer all day long, and they'd just take turns buying each other beer. So it'd be like this guy's turn, then that guy's turn, then my turn to buy everybody beer. And it was Victoria beer, VB, Victoria's Best or something like that, was what everybody drank. It wasn't Foster's. I guess that's the piss beer down there. But so yeah, I'm hanging out drinking beer with these guys for 3 days in this bar, and and this Aborigine guy who introduced me would like hang out with us, and then there was this younger Aborigine guy who was hanging out with him too, who would talk to me, but I barely understood what he was saying. The Aborigines are really hard to understand because they talk like this, and they barely pronounce their words, and they speak really quiet and really low. And he didn't have any front teeth, and he was explaining to me that I guess that's the rite of passage down there, is they would bash out their front teeth, and then they're a man. And he's telling me how like there were like rivalries or something between Irish. I don't really understand what he's talking about, but he loved talking to me for a long time. But oops, I'm out of time.